Yeah. I guess we'll do 3. Oh, there's a bird's eye.
You don't have to do it.
Here we go. I'm making that so drawn out.
You don't have to do it for honest. You don't have to do it for honest.
Mentally, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. Good morning, everyone. Please turn to hymn number 322, Living for Jesus. First, second, and last stanza. Living for Jesus, a life that is true, striving to please Him in all that I do, yielding allegiance, glad-hearted and free. This is the pathway of blessing for me. Oh, Jesus, Lord and Savior, I give myself to Thee. For Thou in Thy atonement didst give Thyself to me. I own no other master, my heart shall be Thy throne. My life I give henceforth to live, O Christ, for Thee alone. Living for Jesus, who died in my place, bearing on Calvary my sin and disgrace. Such love constrains me to answer His call. Follow His leading and give Him my all. Jesus, Lord and Savior, I give myself to Thee. For Thou in Thy atonement didst give Thyself for me. I own no other master, my heart shall be Thy throne. My life I give henceforth to live, O Christ, for Thee alone. Living for Jesus, through earth's little while, my dearest treasure, the light of His smile. Seeking the lost ones, He died to redeem, bringing the weary to rest in Him. Oh, Jesus, Lord and Savior, I give myself to Thee. For Thou in Thy atonement didst give Thyself for me. I hold no other master, my heart shall be Thy throne. My life I give henceforth to live, O Christ, for Thee alone.
Okay, wonderful. Before I dismiss you to your next class, next week, I believe, is Cake Day, where you get a lunch also, and the theme will be Vietnamese food. Okay, at this point, you are dismissed.
Did you have slides?
Probably not today, but I might.
Okay.
Okay, let's have you turn to Revelations chapter 11. Okay. So, as I was covering last week, the history of Christianity. And a lot of times, because we live in the Roman world, we think that Christianity did not exist before Rome. So that's because the Catholic Empire wants us to believe that Christianity began with them, the Catholic Church. So therefore, when you go to school, you actually believe, oh yeah, there are no ancient Christian denominations, but the Catholic Church. Chapter 11, verse number 13. In the same hour, there was a great earthquake. A tenth of part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were frightened, gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe comes quickly. Okay, so last time we showed slides of Jerusalem, Old Jerusalem in the four quarters. And in the four quarters, we have Christian, Armenian, Jewish, and Muslim. And the Muslim would be the largest unless you include Christian and Armenian together. And the Christian one has the most famous building called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is where they think Christ was buried. And, oh yeah, we never did look for that slide. Maybe you can look for that slide of where they claim Christ was crucified. So if you look at my general slides, maybe I don't have it, but you might have the slides that we bought, right, that might show where he was crucified. But we're going to not look into that. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, yeah, actually, I do need to show the ladder. Okay, so we showed the first thing, the ladder. See this is on mute. And those of you who are teaching Chinese school, you can always check to see whether your air purifier is on mute. There. So the only reason the Jews want their sector is their sector has the Wailing Wall, okay? And the Christian sector has to have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Muslims, of course, they claim their sector has to have the Dome of the Rock. Dome of the Rock, Muslim. Okay, I just know the word right now, a mosque. Yeah, I was going to say, the Arabic word for mosque is masjid. So the reason I have to learn that word is every time I go to an Arabic country, I have to ask them, where's the mosque? And it's, if you want to say it in Arabic, Aina masjid. Okay, so usually the mosque would be the big thing to see in that town because there's nothing bigger than the mosque. And when you get lost, you kind of always compare where you are with the mosque. So when you get lost, you can at least see the mosque, right? Okay, so can someone turn off the lights? And someone turn the blinds here? Thanks. Or you got that blind. Okay. So here's a little bit more history on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I don't want to give you too much history, but in basically, when Constantine sent his mother Helena, Helena, being a Christian, asked the locals, where was Jesus buried? Where was Jesus crucified? And I don't know if anything was lost in translation because Helena spoke Latin and these people spoke, I don't know, Arabic. There were Arabic Jews here there were Arabic Christians here. And I think they pointed to this area. And so they built in the year, so we know that in the year 300, Constantine declared the empire to be Christian, but it took him about 300 years to build the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So the year 600 was done. And then the Crusaders came in, and I don't remember the year the Crusaders came in, maybe the year 1200, and then they built over that. So that's why you have building over building, and that's why the architecture is Byzantine. So you would think that if Constantine built it, it would be of the architecture Roman, but when you look inside, it is more and more Byzantine. So, I never mentioned this because we're not here for an art class, but since we're here, let's look inside and see if it looks Byzantine. So what does Byzantine mean? Byzantine means when the known world developed their art, the Romans developed their art, and eventually their art became Renaissance, and then it became Baroque, and then it became Romantic. They went through their phases of art, whereas the Turkish area went through their own art. And I'll tell you which area of the art didn't really work too well. The Northern Europe area, Sweden and Germany and Denmark are known for their art. We know that Italy's art was fantastic, especially when you go to Rome and you go to Venice. So you notice they have the Corinthian pillars. Next slide. And, this is where they say he was crucified. And it's supposed to be something underneath. I didn't know I was supposed to take a picture underneath. Next slide. And so he's crucified on the top. He's buried at the bottom. And you can tell that this was built in the year 600 by the Constantine Byzantine people. Okay? And everything else was built by the Crusaders. And this is where you have to wait in this long line. Next slide. I don't know if I ever showed the line. Okay, so and I mentioned in the past, if you go on a tour, they'll say, okay, come back in 30 minutes. And when this line, the line really snakes around a long time to get in. And there's only one path in, one path out. So it takes a long time. Of course, I didn't line up. It'd be, a waste of my time. But this structure definitely is that Byzantine art. And let's see what the next slide looks like. Okay, so the direct road, for those of you who may not know, there is a direct road from Old Jerusalem to modern Jerusalem. This is it. Okay, so let's turn on the lights and bring up and look at history of Christianity. So I forgot to show you that ladder, but you can show that slide one more time. The ladder. So, you can stop that.
The projectors.
Oh, it's
to go
time
through
to
its
warm up. Okay, well, while we're
cooling
waiting for the
cycle.
warm up, the only thing I want to do is point out the ladder. The ladder hasn't been moved for over 100 years. And there's a reason why the ladder hasn't been moved for over 300 years. So at this rate, if it takes too long, I'm going to just go on to the history.
Yeah. It might
Okay, you
take a
guys
few
remember
minutes.
the ladder. Okay, let's bring it down. So, and I mentioned the principle of first dibs. So, Derek, what does first dibs mean? So the Catholic Church says, we are the only, and you may not even know what the word Catholic means. Okay, the word Catholic means the whole thing. Okay, we are the whole church, which is kind of arrogant because there were other churches that existed before the Catholic Church. So we're going to go down who owns what and a history of Christianity. So we're talking about the ancient denominations, and then we will talk more about the modern denominations later. So we'll just go around and everyone gets a chance to name one of the ancient denominations. So, Derek, what's one of the ancient denominations that claims they own the Church of the Holy Sepulchre?
Catholic.
Yeah, the Catholics. Okay, and I always write down the city, the Roman Catholics. Okay, and I think there are 5 of them. Sharon, do you know one of the ancient Christian denominations?
Greek?
Yeah, the Greek Orthodox. What's wrong with this chalk? I can barely see this. Okay. Maybe I'll use a real piece. Okay, let's try it again. Roman, oh yeah, this is better, right? Maybe I'm leaning on a Catholic. Okay, the Greek Orthodox. Orthodox. Okay, so they claim they own it. And Maggie, do you know one of the ancient denominations?
Jews.
What?
Jews. The Jews.
The Jews. Well, it has to be a Christian denomination. Okay, so I'll ask the next person. Betty?
Ethiopians?
Yeah, that's right, the Ethiopians. So the Ethiopian, and I don't know the name of their church, and Andrea, the Armenians, yes. Armenian. And you're wondering, why am I even going over this? Because there's a lot of Christian history before the year 300. We just don't study it. Our mind of Christianity is, it ends with the book of Acts. And then nothing happened, and then all of a sudden the Romans became Christians, and then we just erase everything else. Okay, Brendan? Egyptian? The what? Egyptian? Egyptian, yeah, the Egyptian Coptics, yeah. Egypt. There's 2 of them with a tail. EYP Coptics. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And does anyone know the last one? Do you know the last one, Gibson?
Syrian?
Yeah, the Syriacs. Yeah, the Syriacs. The Syriac Church. Okay. So in order for us to fully figure out who has first dibs, we know that so let's see if you guys have the years memorized. Yeah, they're Christian dating isn't that many. Okay, so does anyone know when the Catholic Church was founded? Roughly, round it off to 100 years. So, Brendan, yeah, 300, which is when Constantine. So Constantine, I gotta write this down on Constantine. Okay, so in the year 300, he became emperor. He said, okay, the Roman Empire will now be Christian. And I might as well ask Andrea, what year was the Greek Orthodox founded? So here's the first clue. The Greek Orthodox capital is in Turkey, and it's named Constantinople. Yeah, same time. So basically, Constantine said, oh, Rome is being invaded by barbarians, so I'm going to establish a new Rome. The new Rome is named after, watch out for that homeless guy. I can hear him too, and he's smoking, and what is he doing in front of our building? Anyway, better bring this down. Okay, so all we have to do is establish the other ones here. And I think last time we really studied really deep what happened after the book of Acts. So the book of Acts is about how Paul brought the gospel through 3 missionary journeys. The first missionary journey, he brings it to Galatia, and he comes back. So he writes the book of Galatians. he does Galatia, which is Turkey, and he does Greece. So that includes cities like Thessalonica, Athens, Corinth. Third missionary journey, and of course Ephesus coming back. Third one he goes to, again the same ones, and I think the fourth one he goes to Spain. Okay. And then history ends because no one reads anything beyond that. What happened to the other apostles? So we're going to just make guesses on each one of them, and that will establish which church gets first dib. Okay, so the next one is Henry. So Henry, the Ethiopian church, let's do the Egyptian Coptics. The Egyptian Coptic church was founded by one of the authors of the Bible. We'd like to guess one of the authors. Mark, you got it. Okay, so we have to, and usually I will bring this out when we study the history of the martyrs. And usually every Memorial Day, we will go over the history of the martyrs. And once every few years, I will go over the history of the martyrs who happen to be one of the 12 apostles. So when I do that one, you can either listen or take pictures. And what do you mean by take pictures? I usually have a slide, and the slide is a picture of each one of the disciples and where they went. And that was from an article printed from National Geographic many, many years ago. Okay, so the Ethiopian church was also founded by one of the 12 disciples. And does anyone want to guess on that one? Otherwise, I'll ask Andrea. He wrote one of the books of the Bible. You know what? The Romans claim Peter as their first pope. Okay. What's wrong with the chalks here? So I might as well write down Peter here. And when you go to Rome, they claim they have the body of Peter. Okay. So you can look at this chamber thing, and how do you know it's the body of Peter? So someone gives you bones, and they claim that this is the body of Peter. And then your answer is, yeah, right. And they will say, well, we have biblical reason why we believe it's the body of Peter. So does anyone want to guess how Peter died? Okay. So even I have to think on this one. Okay, so Peter said, okay, so what the way they, wow. So the apostle, if you go, did anyone here go to Rome? Okay, you have? So did you go to the Forum? Okay, and when you went to the Forum, did you go to the Marmontine prison? Okay, so for those of you in TV land, if you ever go to Rome, talk to me first, and I'll tell you, some of the holy sites to go to, because they may not tell you, or your book may not tell you. Did you guys have a guide, or you guys did it on your own? Did your own? Okay. So when you do the Forum, there are 3 arches. Okay, the Arch of Septimius Severus, the Arch of Titus, and the Arch of Constantine. The Arch of Constantine is next to the Colosseum. So now you got it down to 50-50. The Arch of Titus, Titus persecuted Christians. He killed Jews. He killed all the Jews in Masada. Okay. So you have Septimius Severus, which is what I gave a message on. He was emperor of Rome, first emperor from Africa. Okay. He persecuted Christians, and next to his thing, if you look behind the arch, or do you come down the Palatine Hill and then all the way down to the Colosseum, or you came from the Colosseum all the way up the steps? So, you remember you came down the steps and you saw the 3 arches, and then the Colosseum. Did you see the Colosseum last? Or you saw the Colosseum first? Okay. Okay, so when you're coming down, you pass the first arch, the Arch of Septimius Severus. And if you look to the side of you, oh, there's the Marmentine prison. So Ben and Jade actually went in the Marmentine prison, and it will have in Latin, this is where we have Paul and Peter killed. And I believe Paul, his head was cut off, and Peter, we need to know how he dies to know whether or not this is correct. So I got 3 more minutes. So Peter was crucified, okay? So they said, okay, you look at his hands and feet, right? Whether the bone was crushed or whatever. But Peter said when he was being crucified, I'm not worthy to be crucified like Jesus. Crucify me upside down. Okay, you remember that? Okay, so now it's time to take his body off the cross. So do you think the Roman soldier just took out each peg? He had a crowbar to do this? No, the Roman soldier was really lazy, just chopped off the leg. And so therefore you have a body with no leg. So that's why the Catholics claim, oh yeah, we got the body. The legs are chopped off. Okay. I don't know whether the hands and feet are chopped off, but at least the legs chopped off. 3 more minutes. What? Okay, let's go over the last one. Who was the one that said Peter just now? Andrew said Peter. Okay, so we just go with Brandon. So, which disciple established a church in Ethiopia? And he wrote one of the 12. He's one of the 12 disciples. What? Matthew. Okay, very good. Okay, Matthew. So now that we know these are the ancient ones, the ancient Christian denominations, you may say, well, what are the modern ones? Okay, the modern ones are after the year, and I don't want you guys to memorize lots of stuff, but somewhere near the year 1500 is Martin Luther. Okay, and if you have to memorize dates in history, this is an important one. The world changed after the 300. The world also changed in 1500. 1500 is when the Renaissance started, okay? So let me just mention to you what the Renaissance, all of a sudden, Rome had open thinking in science, in religion, in art. So in the year 1500, Martin Luther wrote down, hey, you know what? The Catholics got it wrong. You don't go to heaven by doing the Catholic things. You have to do it by faith. He lived at the same time as Leonardo da Vinci, a great artist. The Renaissance meant we're going to draw all of our paintings in 3D instead of 2D. He also lived during the same time as Christopher Columbus, free thinking. Columbus says, I think the world is not flat. We're going to try to go over, the world is round. So the year 1492, 1500, new thinking. The world is not like the map we have. It is circular. 1500, Copernicus. Okay, does anyone remember what Copernicus said? So I'll just ask Gibson. Do you know what Copernicus said in the 15th during the Renaissance?
Is it something about space?
Yeah, he said it's not the sun goes around the earth. It's the earth goes around the sun. So you can see the year 1500, thinking really exploded, okay? So during this time, yes, you had the Reformation with Martin Luther, John Calvin, John Knox, the Presbyterians, you had the Baptists, the Methodists, and then it goes further, you have the Seventh-day Adventists, and then later on the Pentecost. So these are the modern denominations that we see, but we're talking about the ancient ones. So what year was Matthew alive? Well, let's say, here's the magic number. I don't even memorize this one. So remember the Arch of Titus? He's the one that persecuted Christians. He's the one that killed Jews. He's the one that they took all the Jews and spread them throughout Europe. There's no Israel anymore. He was the one that took the Jews in Masada. So we have no more Jews. So therefore, minimal. Matthew's not in there there anymore. Neither is Mark. So you can say the first dibs goes to these two. Now we got to talk about these. Oh yeah, and the third one is the founder of this church, according to the Armenians, if you want to believe them, is Bartholomew. Okay, so you got to say maybe they have first dibs. Then you go one more after this. We'll talk more about the Syriac church next time. Okay, let's bow for a word of prayer. Dear God, we want to thank you for today, a chance to learn about history of the past, that Christians persevered even through persecution before the year 300 when they were being persecuted. So we want to thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so yeah, you guys have a break. And you and I are on choir.
Yeah.